Now, Manny has a lot of experience, at the highest level and competing at the highest level, and that makes this that much more interesting. But like I said before, there's no blueprint on how to beat Floyd Mayweather, and he can tell you that himself. It's gonna have to take the whole room together. You're gonna have to put the whole world in the ring to beat me. I'm the best.
He's always claiming that he's a greatest of all time. My question is like this: in which part that he can claim that he's the only one? Diba? He's the only one.
Why?
He cannot claim that he's the only undefeated fighter, which is maraming nag-retire na undefeated, more than 15.
I don't think Floyd will ever be a stationary target. I think Manny knows that. I don't think Floyd by any means is an easy fighter, or an easy opponent. Don't expect Floyd to be a stationary target. That's not Floyd. Floyd is Floyd. I mean, there's a reason why he's nicknamed the greatest of all time. There's a reason why he's the GOAT. There's a reason why.
Floyd Mayweather just exploded on live television, and what he said about Manny Pacquiao is about to blow your mind. The 50-year-old boxing legend completely lost it during a heated interview, screaming at Pacquiao to focus on the ring and reminding him that he already tasted his power once before. But here's what's wild. This isn't just some random outburst. This is a calculated move in what's shaping up to be the most controversial comeback in boxing history. Because while Floyd's out there talking about his unbeatable legacy, there's something way bigger happening behind the scenes that nobody's talking about. The man who retired undefeated at 50-0 is about to risk everything, and the reason why will shock you.
That makes this that much more interesting. But like I said before, there's no blueprint on how to beat Floyd Mayweather, and he can tell you that himself. You're gonna have to take the whole room together. You're gonna have to put the whole world in the ring to beat me. I'm the best.
But Pacquiao wasn't having any of it. The Filipino legend fired right back, and what he said was absolutely brutal. He looked straight into the camera and called Floyd old, dismissed his entire undefeated record, and claimed that despite all of Mayweather's fame and fortune, he's still the superior fighter. Now think about this for a second. We're talking about two men who are way past their prime, throwing insults like they're still in their 20s. Pacquiao is 47 years old, coming off a draw against Mario Barrios that left more questions than answers. Meanwhile, Floyd's been doing circus exhibitions for years, making millions fighting YouTubers and retired basketball players. So why are they suddenly at each other's throats? Because there's a massive payday on the table, and both of these legends are willing to destroy their legacies for one final cash grab.
He's older than me.
Oh, this
I'm still young, so and I'm always active with this sport. So what I have done and accomplished in boxing, I think it's one of a kind, because to get a 8 different weight division is not that easy. So that's a prestigious accomplishment in boxing. And I'm not trying to boast what I have accomplished in life, but I'm just saying this to repeat you might forget that accomplishment.
And get this, Pacquiao's camp is doubling down on the delusion. His trainer came out swinging, claiming that Floyd's perfect 50-0 record means absolutely nothing because he hasn't fought a real opponent in years. Meanwhile, they're bragging about Pacquiao's recent fight against Mario Barrios like it was some kind of masterpiece. But here's the reality check nobody wants to hear. That fight was a draw. A draw against a fighter that Ryan Garcia absolutely demolished. So while they're out there talking trash about Floyd being inactive, their own guy couldn't even beat an opponent that a much younger fighter handled with ease. The cognitive dissonance is absolutely insane, but it gets worse when you realize what's really driving this whole circus.
I learned a lot on that fight. Way back 2015, I think we become mature right now and how to handle it, and I hope that it will not happen again, the way it is last 2015. It's the experience is not really 100%, but I'm hoping for this time around no more excuses, especially to my condition, and also for everything. Like I'm so excited and ready to the fight. Although before he wants an exhibition with me, but I disagree, and I don't want to fight with exhibition with him. I want to fight a real fight like this.
Now here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Boxing analyst Timothy Bradley dropped a bombshell that explains everything. He revealed that Netflix is backing this rematch with a purse so massive that it's literally impossible for either fighter to walk away. We're talking about generational wealth, the kind of money that makes their previous careers look like pocket change. And Bradley pointed out something crucial. When legends like Floyd and Manny come back for these mega paydays, it creates a domino effect. Every other retired fighter starts thinking they can cash in too. Oscar de la Hoya, Tito Trinidad, you name it. Suddenly everyone wants a piece of the action, and the sport becomes less about competition and more about nostalgia tour for aging millionaires.
He was 50-0, very talented.
He's not 50-0. He was, when he stopped out of boxing, he was 48, no, 47.
Well, Bruto and McGregor and Bruto was
Yeah,
the last
McGregor
two.
didn't count. Then he fought the Thai guy. Some guy had no fights.
No.
That doesn't count.
That wasn't part of the 50.
What's part of the 50?
McGregor,
McGregor's not a boxer.
he went 10
If
rounds.
they did MMA, but Floyd carried him.
By the way, counterpicked Mayweather to beat Manny in a rematch.
Never happened.
That's what he said.
Yeah. Never happened. Conor was like that. It's not MMA. Conor's not a boxer. He's the MMA guy. If the roles were reversed, Floyd gets destroyed in about 40 seconds. Conor just takes him down.
But Mike Tyson gave Conor credit that he said he went 10 rounds with the pound 0-0. Like, I wasn't.
Floyd carried.
But wait, it gets even more complicated. According to boxing insider Luke Thomas, this isn't going to be some meaningless exhibition like Floyd's been doing for years. This is an official professional bout that will count on both fighters' records. Let that sink in for a moment. Floyd Mayweather, who walked away from boxing as an undefeated legend, is about to risk his perfect record against a man he already beat. His 50-0 could become 51-0, or it could become 50-1, ending one of the most impressive streaks in sports history. And for what? Money he doesn't even need. The man has earned nearly $1 billion in his career, owns multiple businesses, and lives like a king. Yet here he is, ready to gamble his entire legacy on one more fight.
And Pacquiao, the biggest fight that's ever happened in combat sports. It wasn't at their best. We'll talk about how I think this version's going to go. But what was it? 4.2 million pay-per-view buys. The biggest fight we thought we'd ever see. And it may still be that, but this is going to do numbers as well, no doubt about it. But the reason this fight is at least more interesting to me now than either of their exhibitions. And yeah, I'm throwing away how the first fight went and that they were past their prime in that one, and that I may be getting the wool pulled over my eyes for what we actually might see. But let's be honest though, Floyd's 49, Manny's 47. We know what we're gonna get. They're not gonna be in their prime. We don't expect them to be in their primes. But Manny Pacquiao just came off a world title fight where I thought he beat Mario Barrios. I thought he beat him. Now granted, it was a draw, and we just saw Mario Barrios get absolutely skunked by Ryan Garcia. It's showing us that, one, like I've said, Mario Barrios is one of the worst world champions in boxing, or he was.
Here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. The first Mayweather versus Pacquiao fight was one of the biggest disappointments in boxing history. Fans waited years for that matchup, paid record-breaking pay-per-view prices, and got a boring technical decision that satisfied absolutely no one. Pacquiao blamed his shoulder injury. Floyd blamed the critics for not understanding boxing, and everyone else blamed themselves for falling for the hype. So why would anyone want to see a rematch between two fighters who are now even older, slower, and further past their prime? Because the promoters know that nostalgia sells, and desperate fans will convince themselves that this time will be different.
Manny Pacquiao Mayweather about to go back at it in September. So a lot of guys coming out of retirement getting that Netflix money. Netflix is willing to pay for content, man, especially if you're popular. You know, they did Jake Paul. Jake Paul opened his damn door. Gotta give it up for him. He opened his door. And Mike Tyson. They've done other events as well. You know, Katie Taylor and Serrano as well. However, I was thinking De La Hoya was next. De La Hoya, you coming out of retirement? Clap back Thursdays. Nah, bring your ass out of retirement, big dog, for real. You and Tito to the dad. Yeah.
And the age factor is absolutely brutal when you really break it down. Pacquiao is 47 years old, which in boxing years might as well be 70. His recent performance against Mario Barrios showed a fighter who still has heart but has clearly lost several steps. His reflexes aren't what they used to be, his power has diminished, and his ability to handle younger, hungrier opponents is seriously questionable. Meanwhile, Floyd will be 49 by the time they fight, relying entirely on his technical skills and ring IQ to carry him through. His recent exhibition against Logan Paul was telling. While he dominated, it was clear that Father Time is undefeated, and even the best defensive fighter in history can't stop the aging process forever.
But let's just say if you know what they're worth and they know what they're worth and they know the numbers they've done before. So if the numbers didn't make sense for either of them, they wouldn't have signed on the dotted line and we wouldn't be where we are today.
Okay, I'll ask one more. Over or under 50 million each?
Over.
Okay, that's a good benchmark to work with.
Yeah.
The first fight was billed as the fight of the century, but it failed to live up to the massive expectations, right? Fans were left with a bad taste on. After the fight, Manny said he had a shoulder injury. There were some lawsuits involved. How can this fight be different 11 years later?
You know, it's very hard to explain this, but these guys are in better.
But here's what's really disturbing about this whole situation, the financial desperation that's driving it. Henry, a respected boxing analyst, revealed that Floyd's post-retirement life isn't the fairy tale everyone thinks it is. Despite earning hundreds of millions of dollars, Mayweather is facing multiple lawsuits involving unpaid luxury items, disputed apartment rent, and failed cryptocurrency endorsements. Some of these cases involve millions of dollars, and none of them appear to be fully resolved. On top of that, he filed a lawsuit against Showtime seeking $340 million, claiming they misappropriated his fight earnings. So the man who's supposed to be set for life is actually drowning in legal problems and looking at boxing as his way out.
Will go on their record. Floyd currently has a record of 50-0. Remember, he retired at 50-0. It is possible he could go either 51-0 or now 50-1, or if it's a draw or whatever. But he's at least putting it up to be part of the professional record. Now, you might say, well, hasn't he been doing a lot of exhibitions since his retirement from boxing? And the answer is yes, about 8 of them or so. I believe he's got, by the way, a 9th coming up in April in the Democratic Republic of the Congo against, of all people, Mike Tyson. Also, just as a fresh reminder, the first fight, I didn't hate it, but a lot of people did. And remember, you'll recall Manny Pacquiao, after the fight was over, blamed his performance on his shoulder. But there was pretty widespread disappointment with just how big the fight was and then how little it delivered. Not necessarily to hardcore fans, although some of that too, but definitely to casual fans who were expecting a little bit more rock'em sock'em.
Manny Pacquiao now. This is where the story gets really sad, because we're watching two legends potentially destroy their legacies for money they desperately need, but shouldn't have to chase. Victor Oladipo, the former NBA player turned boxing analyst, put it perfectly when he said that while these fighters remain skilled, the sport's future depends on giving younger athletes their opportunity to shine. Instead, we're stuck in this endless cycle of bringing back retired legends who should be enjoying their golden years, not getting punched in the face for Netflix money. The sport becomes a nostalgia act instead of a legitimate competition, and the next generation of fighters gets pushed aside while aging superstars chase one more payday.
Rematch. And then after the fight, Floyd had said explicitly, I'm not really going to do, I need to know what my limits are here. I'm not really going to go back to doing professional stuff, because during that week he was like, oh, I'd fight McGregor again and blah, blah, blah. He kept doing the exhibition thing. Well, now he's going back to the professional side. So let's talk about it. Why is this fight happening? I actually feel like the explanation is basically threefold, with some of that being really kind of sad, but some of it being something we should think about. Reason number one, both of these guys are broke. I mean, the reporting on Floyd recently has been pretty unambiguous. He is in a lot of debt, and despite the fact that he made over $1 billion during the course of his career, and by the way, did that without sponsors, by and large, without sponsors, is a remarkable achievement. I don't know what he's done with his money, but he doesn't have much more of it.
Tim Bradley reflects on...
So there you have it. Two aging legends throwing insults like teenagers, risking their health and legacies for a payday they probably don't even need, while the sport of boxing becomes more about entertainment than actual competition. This isn't just about Floyd versus Manny anymore. This is about what happens when financial desperation meets ego, when legends refuse to stay retired, and when promoters care more about money than the integrity of the sport. And honestly, we're all enablers in this mess because we'll probably watch anyway. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Are you actually excited for this rematch, or are you just watching to see two legends embarrass themselves? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one.
Fight Tito, we always been wanting to see that damn rematch with you and Tito. Yeah, Tito got Puerto Rico on lock. Imagine Tito Trinidad coming back and your old ass Oscar De La Hoya that still got that damn left hook. Yeah, man. Hey, they paying for content, and I'm talking about gravy. Big money. Big money. Hey, yeah, more money you ever made in one night in your career, Oscar De La Hoya. Anyways, Tim Desert Storm Bradley. Shit, what else fights we can think of? You already know the rest, and I'm out.
The reality is even more twisted than you think. While we're all focused on Floyd and Manny throwing verbal jabs at each other, the real puppet masters behind this circus are laughing all the way to the bank. Netflix didn't just stumble into boxing by accident. They've been quietly building a combat sports empire that makes traditional pay-per-view look like child's play. They've got Jake Paul locked into exclusive deals. They're throwing money at retired UFC legends, and now they're about to crown their strategy with the biggest boxing rematch in history. But here's the terrifying part nobody wants to admit. They're not just changing how we watch fights. They're fundamentally altering what fighting means in the first place.
Floyd fighting his dad, Floyd doing this, Floyd doing that. It was genius. And I fell in love with Floyd. I thought Floyd was just incredible. And then again, he got in the ring and it was fantastic. But that was then. This is now. Like, when's it gonna stop? When are we gonna stop rolling out these old timers? And Floyd is an old timer, people. I think he's gonna be 49 by the time this fight rolls around. When are we gonna stop wheeling them out? Like, let it go. Let the youngsters come through and let them take the shine. Like, it's just getting, honestly, it's getting crazy. And I say all this, I will watch it. Of course I will watch it because I'm a big Floyd fan and a big Manny Pacquiao fan. But like, the youngsters need their time to shine now. We've got a good group of youngsters. I was in Vegas to watch Ryan Garcia. I looked around the ring. I saw Shakur Stevenson. I saw Keyshawn Davis. I saw Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. Like, we've got a good bunch. Let them have their shine.
Think about it this way. When Netflix decides to back a fight, they're not just buying one event, they're purchasing an entire narrative ecosystem. They control the documentary that comes before the fight, the behind-the-scenes content during training camp, the post-fight analysis, and even the inevitable sequel series. Floyd and Manny aren't just fighters anymore, they're content creators in a multi-billion-dollar streaming war. And the scariest part, it's working. Traditional boxing promoters like Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn are scrambling to keep up with streaming giants who have deeper pockets and zero respect for boxing's traditional power structure. The sport is being hijacked by tech companies who see fighters as interchangeable content rather than elite athletes.
Don't need to see this anymore. Honestly, I really don't. Manny Pacquiao is in great shape, right? We saw him against Mario Barrios. He could have been a world champion. We haven't seen Floyd for a while. Obviously, he's been doing his exhibitions. He always looks in shape, but I guess there's in shape, and who am I to say this to Floyd? There's fight in shape. I don't know if this fight's going to be a 6-rounder, an 8-rounder, a 10-rounder. I don't know what size gloves they're using. I don't know, man. Honestly, I don't know, people. I don't know. It is what it is. Look, maybe I'm putting too much stock into it. Let them just have their fight. Again, I do want to know what's going to happen with Provodnikov, Pacquiao. I'm guessing that probably is cancelled. Like, if you're Pacquiao, why on earth would you fight Provodnikov when you've got the Mayweather check waiting for you? And if you're Mayweather, same thing. Why would you fight Mike Tyson in the Congo when you've got the Pacquiao check waiting for you?
But let's talk about what this means for the actual fight itself, because the technical breakdown is absolutely fascinating. Floyd's defensive style relies on lightning-fast reflexes, perfect timing, and the ability to make opponents miss by fractions of inches. At 49 years old, those reflexes are measurably slower than they were during his prime. Sports science tells us that reaction time decreases by approximately 6 milliseconds per decade after age 30. That might not sound like much, but in a sport where punches travel at over 20 miles per hour, those milliseconds are the difference between a clean miss and a devastating knockout. Floyd's entire fighting philosophy is built on margins that age is systematically destroying, and there's absolutely nothing he can do to stop it.
Was the last time that we've seen Floyd Mayweather in the ring. Now, for the out-of-the-ring stuff, the stuff that kind of gives us a bit more of an indication as to what the hell has been going on with Floyd Mayweather. Why somebody who retired at 50-0, having beaten many of the greatest fighters of his era, has felt the need to continue competing in these gimmicky exhibition bouts. And especially given the fact that I think Floyd Mayweather made close to $1 billion in his career. I mean, his career earnings are absolutely insane. His activities since then almost feel kind of demeaning to his legacy, I suppose you could say. Well, I can tell you that I did a little digging, and actually there are a number of lawsuits that are currently active against Floyd Mayweather Jr.'s name, and they're worth a significant amount of money. From controversies around endorsing certain cryptocurrencies, to millions of dollars worth of unpaid luxury items.
Meanwhile, Pacquiao's approach presents a completely different set of age-related challenges. His southpaw stance and explosive combinations depend on leg speed, footwork, and the ability to generate power from awkward angles. But recent footage from his training camps shows a fighter whose legendary foot speed has diminished significantly. His trainer, Freddie Roach, has been working overtime trying to modify Pacquiao's style to compensate for physical limitations that simply didn't exist 5 years ago. They're essentially trying to rebuild a Formula One race car with bicycle parts, and expecting it to compete at the highest level. The cognitive dissonance is staggering, but it gets worse when you realize that both camps are publicly pretending these limitations don't exist.
These are all alleged, and these are all the cases that currently exist against him. There's no record of some kind of settlement, and as far as I know, a lot of these are ongoing. To add to that, Mayweather even lodged his own case against Showtime, and he did that this year, reportedly seeking damages of $340 million. And the allegation there is apparently there's been a misappropriation of his fight earnings. Interesting that he's waited until 2026 to lodge this kind of legal case. Now look, at the very least, we know there are allegations out there that he hasn't been paying for a lot of the things that he needs to live his lavish lifestyle. Now let's suppose that they're true. Why would one not pay for the things that they've been purchasing? Well, usually it's because you don't have the money, but you want to sustain your high net earning individual high wealth lifestyle. And so Mayweather lodging that legal case, it does sort of make you think with the timing of it, perhaps he expects to owe quite a bit of money.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. The sparring footage that's been leaked from both camps tells a completely different story than the trash talk we're hearing in interviews. Floyd's recent sparring sessions show him struggling against relatively unknown fighters who would have been easy work during his prime. He's still technically sound, but the explosiveness is gone, the reflexes are delayed, and most importantly, his confidence looks shaken. One video shows him taking clean shots from a journeyman fighter that he would have made look foolish 10 years ago. His team immediately tried to get the footage removed from social media, but boxing insiders had already seen enough to raise serious questions about whether Floyd can still perform at an elite level. On the Pacquiao side, the situation is equally concerning, but for different reasons. Manny's recent sparring partners have been specifically instructed to avoid certain types of combinations that might expose his diminished defensive capabilities. His team is essentially creating an artificial training environment that doesn't reflect what he'll face in an actual fight. Former sparring partner Miguel Cotto Jr. spoke off the record about how different Pacquiao looks compared to even 3 years ago. The killer instinct is still there mentally, but the physical tools to execute his game plan have deteriorated to the point where his own team is scared to test him properly during preparation. Now let's dive into the financial web that's really driving this madness, because the numbers are absolutely insane. Netflix's initial offer was reportedly $200 million total, split between both fighters. But when you break down the ancillary revenue streams, the real money is mind-blowing. International broadcasting rights, merchandise deals, cryptocurrency partnerships, NFT collections, and exclusive documentary rights could push the total economic impact past $500 million. Both fighters are getting equity stakes in the streaming numbers, which means they'll continue earning money from this fight for years after it happens. It's not just a boxing match. It's a multimedia franchise disguised as a sporting event. But here's where it gets really dark. Industry insiders are whispering about performance clauses that could fundamentally compromise the integrity of the fight itself. Sources close to the negotiations claim that both fighters have agreed to certain entertainment guidelines that prioritize viewer engagement over competitive authenticity. Translation: they might be contractually obligated to make the fight more exciting than their natural fighting styles would produce. We're potentially looking at a scripted entertainment event masquerading as legitimate sport, and nobody wants to admit it publicly because too much money is at stake. The medical concerns surrounding this fight are being completely ignored by everyone involved, and it's honestly terrifying. Both fighters are at ages where traumatic brain injuries carry significantly higher risks of permanent damage. Neurological studies show that fighters over 45 have dramatically increased susceptibility to chronic traumatic encephalopathy, especially when they've already absorbed thousands of punches throughout their careers. Floyd and Manny have been getting hit in the head professionally for over 2 decades each. Their brains are not the same organs they were during their primes, and the potential consequences of this fight extend far beyond wins, losses, or money. Dr. Margaret Goodman, the former chief ringside physician for the Nevada State Athletic Commission, has gone on record expressing serious concerns about sanctioning fights between aging legends. She points out that athletic commissions are caught in an impossible position. They want to protect fighters' health, but they're under enormous political and financial pressure to approve fights that generate massive tax revenue for their states. The medical examinations required for fighters over 45 are more extensive, but they're still not comprehensive enough to detect the subtle neurological changes that could make these fights genuinely dangerous. Here's something that should absolutely terrify boxing fans. The undercard for this event is being constructed like a retirement home reunion tour. Promoters are trying to stack the card with other aging legends who want their own piece of the Netflix money. We're talking about potential matchups between fighters who should be coaching their Floyd's little league teams, not stepping back into professional boxing rings. The entire event is becoming a celebration of what boxing used to be rather than what it could become, and younger fighters are getting pushed aside to make room for geriatric superstars chasing one last payday. But wait, there's more. The international implications of this fight are staggering in ways most people haven't even considered. Pacquiao's political career in the Philippines means this fight carries diplomatic weight that extends far beyond sports. His performance will be interpreted as a reflection of Filipino national pride, and the pressure he's feeling from his home country is immense. Meanwhile, Floyd represents a certain image of American success and dominance that his fans expect him to maintain. Both fighters are carrying cultural expectations that have nothing to do with their actual ability to compete at this stage of their lives, and that pressure could lead to decision-making that prioritizes symbolism over safety. The training camps for this fight are revealing just how desperate both sides are to recapture magic that probably no longer exists. Floyd's team has brought in specialists in geriatric sports medicine, trying to optimize his preparation for a fighter his age. They're using recovery technologies that didn't exist during his prime: cryotherapy chambers, hyperbaric oxygen treatments, and advanced nutrition protocols designed specifically for aging athletes. It's like watching scientists try to reverse engineer a vintage sports car to compete in modern Formula One racing. The effort is impressive, but the fundamental limitations can't be overcome through technology alone. Pacquiao's preparation is equally desperate, but from a different angle. His team is focusing heavily on psychological preparation, trying to convince him that age is just a number, and that his warrior spirit can overcome physical limitations. They're bringing in motivational specialists, sports psychologists, and even spiritual advisors to help him believe he can recapture his prime performance levels. But belief doesn't restore reflexes, and motivation doesn't rebuild cartilage. They're essentially asking a 47-year-old body to perform like it's 27, and no amount of positive thinking can change the laws of human physiology. The most disturbing aspect of this entire situation might be how it's exposing the complete lack of retirement planning in professional boxing. Unlike other major sports, boxing has no pension system, no guaranteed health care, and no structured transition programs for aging fighters. When NFL players retire, they have support systems and alternative career paths. When boxers retire, they're often left with brain damage, financial problems, and no skills outside of fighting. Floyd and Manny are supposed to be the lucky ones. They made hundreds of millions of dollars and should never need to fight again. If even they feel compelled to risk their health for more money, what does that say about the thousands of less successful fighters who are completely abandoned by the sport once their usefulness expires?